Logan Miller stood alone in his tiny Brooklyn apartment, surrounded by half-packed boxes and a silence that felt heavier than usual. The walls, once adorned with posters and inspiration quotes, now looked bare, like his spirit. Just 2 days ago, he'd handed in his resignation letter, not in a dramatic fashion. No storming out or slammed doors. Just a quiet moment of truth in front of his computer, typing out the words that would close a chapter he'd long outgrown. He had done everything right, or so he thought. College degree, solid internships, landed a marketing job at a fast-growing tech company, made friends, paid rent on time. From the outside, his life was the blueprint of success. But inside, Logan felt like he was watching someone else's movie. As he emptied a drawer in his desk, a yellowed envelope fell onto the hardwood floor. It was worn at the edges, the ink faded. He picked it up and froze. To my future self. From Logan, age 12. He sat down slowly, heart beginning to race. He had no memory of writing it. But it was his handwriting, crooked, a little messy, like all 12-year-olds. Carefully, he opened the envelope and unfolded the paper inside. Dear future me, are you an astronaut yet? Or a writer? Or maybe you've opened that animal rescue farm we always talked about? I hope you still like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I hope you didn't become boring. I hope you still draw dragons in your notebook. And most of all, I hope you remember to be kind and brave. I think you're going to do something amazing. I really believe that. Logan felt a lump form in his throat. He read the letter again and again. He could almost hear the eager voice of his younger self, full of hope and wild dreams. There was something painful in its purity. He had forgotten all of it. He looked around the room, sterile, quiet, beige. No dragons, no dreams, just bills and deadlines and burnout. That night, Logan didn't sleep. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, the letter still clutched in his hand. When the morning sun peeked through the blinds, he got up, made coffee, and stared at his laptop. Then, he opened a new document and typed 4 words. The letter I forgot. It was a story. His story. The beginning of something new. In the weeks that followed, Logan started writing every day. Not for an audience, not for a paycheck, just for himself. It was clumsy at first. He hadn't written creatively since high school. But slowly, the words came back. The rhythm, the voice, the truth. He remembered how stories used to pour out of him when he was a kid. How he'd write about space pirates, talking animals, lost cities. He'd fill entire notebooks with worlds no one else had ever seen. But then, life happened. College happened. Debt happened. Writing became a hobby, then a luxury, then a ghost. But now, with no job tying him down and a little savings left, he made a deal with himself. 6 months. 6 months to try. He got a part-time job at a bookstore around the corner. The pay was modest, but the quiet hours surrounded by stories gave him peace. On slow afternoons, he'd scribble in a notebook behind the register. Some days were hard. Some days he felt foolish, like a kid chasing make-believe. But other days, he'd write a sentence that made his heart leap, and it was like breathing again after years underwater. He started submitting stories to small magazines, most of which sent back polite rejections. But each one taught him something. One editor wrote a note. Your story made me pause. That's rare. Keep writing. Logan pinned it to his wall. Then, one night in November, he got an email. Subject: Congratulations. Your story has been accepted. He stared at the screen, blinking, then read it again and again. The story they accepted was called The Letter I Forgot to Read. It was about a man who finds a letter from his childhood self and remembers who he was meant to be. It wasn't subtle. It didn't need to be. The magazine paid him $150. It wasn't much, but it was the first time someone had paid him to tell a story, and it felt like everything. He called his mom that night and read her the story over the phone. She cried, so did he. Months passed. Logan's life wasn't glamorous, but it was his. He wrote each morning, worked afternoons, and walked the city in the evenings, watching people and imagining their stories. He felt more connected to the world than he ever had in a glass-walled office. One afternoon, while shelving books, a woman approached him. She looked to be in her 40s, holding a copy of the magazine that published his story. "Are you Logan Miller?" she asked. He nodded, caught off guard. "I just wanted to say, your story meant a lot to me. My son, he's 12. He just wrote a letter to his future self for a school project. And after reading your story, I sat down and wrote one back to him. Not to give now, but for when he's older." Logan felt tears sting his eyes. "Thank you," he said softly. "That means more than you know." When she left, he sat in the corner of the store for a long while, just holding the book in his hands. He thought of his 12-year-old self, thought of the dragons, the dreams, the courage. He had let them go for a long time, but they had never left him. A year later, Logan published his first short story collection. He titled it, Dear Future Me. It didn't hit any bestseller lists, but readers wrote to him from all over, saying the stories made them remember something they'd forgotten, something real, and sometimes that's all a story needs to do. Logan never became an astronaut. He didn't open an animal rescue farm, not yet, anyway. But he did become something he once promised himself, a storyteller. And somewhere in a drawer, he kept that letter, a little yellowed, a little torn, but still full of the kind of hope that changes lives. He read it once a year, on his birthday, a reminder to be kind, to be brave, to never stop imagining,